Peace and blessings, Wafube. This is Misael Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you once again with another episode of Raw Talk. And just want to say Happy New Year and then wish uh, everybody is able to achieve what they need to achieve and to, stay safe and healthy and try to make it through, this year diligently as possible, So uh, 2020 was a very uh, it was a very interesting year, and there's a lot of crossroads many people face. You know what I'm saying? So, just want to spread that. I want to get back into the discussions on the ivory tablets of the crow, and to talk about some of the benefits thereof, and how to best utilize the text. I think we had left off in the previous section. I want to get more about discussions on the Ninzuwu and the Famu in this text, and also talk about Ninzuwu membership, things of that nature. Ninzuwu, the Sword of Ninzuwu section in the Ivory Tablets of the Crow is a very pivotal point, because in Ninzuwu we have meetings, we have regular meetings, and in order to qualify to attend those meetings, one would have to have a thorough knowledge of the soul of fire, the opening of the sea, the Shamuzi calling, and the sword of Ninzuwu, right? And that's in many cases memorized to some degree. It's not a very difficult task, but there's reasons for that, you know what I'm saying? And those who are involved in the outer work of trying to get, things together, perhaps, they're people that we associate with, or, family members, friends, that sort of thing. The work is only furthered by familiarity with those things and a person passing a qualification of that. Everything outside of that is outer work. There's a lot of people in outer work, as we call it, because in Ninzuwu we do recognize that there are many paths that lead to a state of consciousness known as Ninzuwu, or enlightenment, as some people would say. And that's to be respected. Some people may buy or obtain some of the Ninzuwu text to enhance their understanding about life, maybe get a different viewpoint of certain spiritual aims and focuses, and just a whole different variety of reasons, which is good if it helps, enhance their quality of their knowledge and what they're capable of, and coming into better terms with the conditions of the world and their inner condition, So all those things, to be applauded and the support in that way. However, for a person to qualify as Ninzuwu, he has to go through those chambers and be well acquainted with it, and tested on that before being able to be brought in further into the organization. And it's always been like that, for the most part. What appears on the outer side is a test not for us but for the individual. The Ninzuwu themselves is it's almost like another term of the Tengu, or what some people will call the Jinn. And they don't care about membership, what I'm saying? That's not something that Ninzuwu, the art of Ninzuwu, is on a membership drive. That's not something that's inspired for that, because it takes a certain discipline for the world of nature to unveil itself. And so in the exercises, this has never really been told before publicly, but in the exercises, nature unveils itself, you know what I'm saying? And the quality of Ninzuwu, its description, has unveiled itself in certain conditions. There was a time I was a couple of years back. This was back, I would say, like 2014. I had the opportunity of meeting a Japanese doctor, and he had some issues. He used to be big into sports, and he hurt his leg, and so we did a healing session. We have several different forms of healing in Ninzuwu, and we did a session in Ninzuwu. Now, he's never read an Ninzuwu text. He doesn't know the word. He didn't know anything about Ninzuwu. Okay. He just knew that, that I dealt with spiritual healing. So he decided to take a session, at a recommendation of a friend. When we completed the exercise, he described, because he had his eyes closed the whole time, he described seeing tall copper beings with white wings, you know what I'm saying? And it was a little bit of a confirmation. It wasn't, I already know because I dealt with Ninzuwu on an extensive process, but it was one of those things that, because of where we were at, the Ninzuwu unveiled itself to him. And so the same conditions for the world of nature to unveil itself, the meditations, the incantations and the prayers are said to conditions one's minds and body. And that's something that's constantly has to be nurtured, because a person can fall out of that state of existence. You see what I'm saying? So in the meetings, it's really amongst those who are in that state of consciousness. Now, as far as being familiar with the information and pounding around online and stuff like that, that really has nothing to do with Ninzuwu consciousness. Sometimes, Ninzuwu has a very deep knowledge behind it, and a lot of sometimes people we see posts and other stuff and things of that nature, that's not really have anything to do with Ninzuwu. Maybe it's their perception of something Eastern, but it has nothing to do with Ninzuwu. And on this topic, before I go further, let me just say that Ninzuwu is not affiliated with the Shinto League of Shrines in Japan, nor does it seek to be. Sometimes when people don't understand the structure of one thing, they qualify it through false means. For example, there are other Shinto practitioners in the world, evidently, and we don't even there's esoteric Shintos, there's a different range of groups. And if you go to one group versus another, that's like going to the Pope asking him if a Baptist preacher is qualified to teach Christianity. They're just different paths that utilize some of the same, there's certain agreements, and there's different paths that utilize some of the same framework, but they have different aims and things of that nature. So Ninzuwu also has different aims. It's more of a world Shinto thought, and it deals with esoteric martial science, huge in esoteric martial science. And if you come into Ninzuwu, like what we're talking about, that's one of the things that you're going to have to deal with is martial science. If not, then you could study some of the texts and learn a lot of different things and stuff like that. But to qualify in Ninzuwu, this person doesn't have to necessarily be a martial artist, but they have to be diligent to have certain things, to be made aware of certain things, and to be able to discuss certain things, to understand certain things, and to abilities have developed and refinement according to those first 4 dreams. Okay, and that's very important. One of the things that is discussed, one of the aspects about Ninzuwu that is very important is how our view of world spirituality. You know what I'm saying? World Shinto, what does that mean? Basically, it means that anything that has influence in this world is real. So if Christians, if they believe in Jesus and stuff, evidently it's a real influence, because at this point in time, a lot of people have adjusted their lives to that sort of thing, and that's, nothing to be debated. I'll read a passage from the Ivory Tablets of the Crow, and that gets into a little bit about the world view, Ninzuwu world view. And this is under the section Sword of Ninzuwu, and it says, it was so that the journey of dreams one may approach old civilizations, some on the earth and others that have vanished. Know that the gods and spirits may try to tempt thee in dreams, but thou must remain pure. And this is a world full of wanderers, those without spirit, for they know not true joy. And what it's saying in that passage is that Ninzuwu spirituality is not based on hero worship or idol worship of an old kingdom. There have definitely been remarkable societies, Sumeria, Egypt, and those things that were very flourishing, prominent, even some that exist down into the day. But the structures of those societies will come and go, just like people come and go and they reincarnate. Those civilizations will reincarnate sometime in the future because they're trying to grow and do what they're trying to do. And the people that make up those civilizations, or those civilizations that have passed and gone. One thing about Ninzuwu and why it's important to follow and understand the dreams, the 4 dreams, before one can come into the science of Ninzuwu, is an awareness of the ghost element. When one comes to understand the ghost element, they can see the connectivity between these civilizations and the perspective of why life even brings them into being. What's the purpose? People on an individual level try to find ways to extend their life, and that sort of thing. And they wonder why are they made if they're going to, deal with this fate called death. But the same question exists towards civilizations. Now, if you follow those civilizations and they haven't perpetuated themselves to some form of immortality, can civilizations gain immortality? Are they immortal? Do they have an afterlife? These are things that we understand in Ninzuwu. So the elements, the invisible laws that were operative in those civilizations still exist. You see what I'm saying? And you don't want to get confused in, awareness of those laws and not seeing them today versus only thinking that they existed in a civilization. All those laws exist, and those laws are also advancing. And that's one of the things that awareness of the ghost element has a lot to do with. A lot of times people, they may, bring certain things to mind. Hey, that's nice or whatever. And that's nice, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the work of recognizing those laws in action today and how they operate through us and beyond us. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of the lessons that the Ninzuwu teaches. Another thing that is another dream that's encountered after that is the Famu. The Famu is more of an external recognition of the mind of life operating through things around us. And, metaphorically and symbolically, we can see this in a relationship that we have between plants and trees. And there's different reasons why plants, in Ninzuwu are seen as a natural altar. Number one is because they provide oxygen for mankind and they provide food for man. They are able to turn sunlight into, they're able to, enact photosynthesis. So it's a natural altar, you know what I'm saying? And in many cultures and many animist cultures and things that nature, there does exist a relationship between members of that path and nature. trees, things of that nature, that sort. And so the FAMU emphasizes the connectivity. For us, trees are a way to feed the plant source through our negative emotions, and also to be able to absorb a certain stillness and learn from them the process of photosynthesis so that we can further envelop our souls. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that the beliefs that is or sciences that's in the art of Ninzuwu, So Ninzuwu is very open to a lot of different things, but its technology is not really centered in one civilization. It's centered in the cultivation of self. So while there may be, different paradigm that seems to be, discussed in some of the literature and things of that nature, it's really centered in that cultivation of our internal beings. And oftentimes those principles that best demonstrate that are exemplified in the culture, you see what I'm saying? But it's not, following something that has long passed in that sense, because those principles are internally alive. And there are benefits from things that people have done in the past and so forth and so on. But one thing that is saying in this passage, in the Sword of Ninzuwu passage, is that those things come and go because they're under a law that is not the law of awareness. You see what I'm saying? If they were aware, they will perpetuate their existence. But the fact that they were fighting against their own destruction and still became non-existence shows that there's a higher law that governs their entrance into our world as a civilization and their exit from our world as a civilization. And it must happen because man has to take certain strides in growth. You know what I mean? So there's amazing, if we look at a person's individual life, each process is amazing. From the time that we are born, we may not be able to communicate or speak, but there's a certain genius about our existence at that time. When we learn how to talk and walk, there's a genius at that time. When we learn how to, as we grow into an adult, we learn how to take care of ourselves and things of that nature. There's a genius about that time. There's a genius that extends all the way to the time that we leave here. In our elderly states, in our middle-aged states, in our youthful states, there's a genius behind human existence and the potential that it captures, And so if we were just to freeze ourselves in one of those states, it will really thwart the beauty of the other states, you see what I'm saying, and the lessons that we need to learn. Sometimes there's many lessons in life to learn, and that life is trying to teach us. And so Ninzuwu often falls upon the premise of aligning oneself to best learn the lessons that you have to learn in life. You know what I'm saying? You could be able to do a lot of different things on a psychic level and stuff like that, but if you don't learn the lessons that life is trying to teach you, what are those things really worth? Because you could be preventing your own growth as a person, as an individual, and as a soul in the universe by, trying to exemplify something that existed, or, allegiance to one law out of 1,000 that's personified through some sort of human imagery. You know what I'm saying? So, it can teach you some things. Yes, coming under certain laws can definitely teach you certain things, and a lot of that is applied to initiation. And that's why it says that in the ivory tablets that initiation is eternal law, because as you apply more laws to yourself, which is what initiation is, the greater your understanding of life and what's around you happens. But to really get it, like how could you get it and you just, trying to, I need this and I want to get this, and you're not learning any lessons. That's not even spirituality. It might be a magician's trick or something, but it's nothing spiritual about it, because your soul is not growing because you're not learning lessons. So now you have all this shopping mall spirituality where, hey, I can do this, and as soon as I learn how to open up a pack of cards, I can do this for you, and all this crazy stuff. And I can tell you, what does it mean at the end of the day if you're growing into the ground unconsciously? I'm saying you could do all this stuff. This is how many people are involved in the psychic arts and still their status is the fool's card. You know how many people are involved in those things because they're seeking to show off something, or I learned this skill, or I know how to do this, or you put a little oil over this and this result happens. But as far as keeping awake, as far as like managing their thoughts, they can't do it. They're open to anything that comes to mind. They entertain any desire that comes into their heart. So they're sleeping. That's what it means in esotericism when it says a person is sleeping. But right away, everything is about, this imagery. Hey man, I want to, I could do this and all this other crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, what can they do? You know what I'm saying? What have they done? You know what I mean? Like, if you have all these spiritual workers, the world shouldn't even be what it is. It shouldn't even be, things going on that are going on. And I have to ask, like, how much of this stuff is science on some levels? Because can what you're doing cure something? There are medicine men, and other spiritualists that can do some things, but these are just rhetorical questions to ask, just to keep you in lane as far as understanding what you're doing versus the destiny that it would lead to. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people can get on a boat and get on something because it's trendy, or some spirituality is trendy. And that's why we say Ninzuwu. The Ninzuwu themselves, I've never had an urge of, like, sometimes in religion, you hear this urge to proselytize the whole world and stuff like that, to try to get more members into the church or all this sort of stuff. I've never heard those things from Ninzuwu energies or ever felt inspired based on my relationship with the Ninzuwu, because that's not the aim. You know what I'm saying? That's not the aim. It's not an aim to get a whole bunch of people mimicking stuff or saying like, hey, I could do this trick, or, building some sort of spiritual gang. And, this is what we deal with. And the people across the street, they deal with that. There's nothing to do with that. And it's for that reason that a lot of people will never get a grasp of the ghost element. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine, because maybe they have lessons to learn that they couldn't if they knew the ghost element. You see what I'm saying? Those things, Ninzuwu is for a specific lesson that has to be learned, and it's in the material. It's not really for me to speak on, but it's in the material. And based on that, those who come to the meetings are those who have greatly inspired and have done a lot of different things that sorry about that. I was little, man, seeing what's happening, being nosy a little bit, but that's the premise of Ninzuwu. You know what I'm saying? It's not, it's a lot of it is not what I see in the public view, and that's what makes it a very fulfilling path. So we're back on the track again. We're going to get this we're going to continue in this series, and then we're going to go into other books and other things. So next week we'll be summarizing not next week, but our next episode we'll be summarizing the Ivory Tablets of the Crow, the meaning of Jehuta. Very beautiful thing for what is available in the public view for that information. And we'll be continuing on with more texts and tomes. This is Misael Bey, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you once again with another episode of Raw Talk. And thanks for visiting, and thanks for the support. Okay, wishing you all the best on this new moon. Have a great evening.